is Trucker's Corner with Trucker Glen.
Hey everybody, it is Ray Gaucher with Trucker Glen. Trucker Glen, how are you?
I am wonderful.
And this is the Trucker's Corner, and today we're going to be talking about what?
Winter.
Are you ready for winter?
And are you ready for winter? I know I am. I got my armchair by the front room window there and my hot chocolate, and I'm going to watch the snow come down and think about everybody out there. What fun they're having.
Yeah, you'll be one of those guys that'll take your chair down to the highway down there and just watch these guys go by.
Yeah.
So on this particular video, we're going to be talking about just how to prepare for the winter, because it's coming. It's going to happen sooner than you think. And let me ask you something, my friend. Right around this time of the year, we're thinking, okay, first of all, we're going to have to put our chains back on our, on our trucks. We're going to have to equip ourselves. What else is going through your mind, knowing, like, how soon in advance do you mentally prepare for winter?
Well, like you say, September, it can come anytime in September. Actually, May long weekend on, I've seen it.
Really?
Yeah. But I would say that this is the time of year where you get surprised a lot. You could be running in 70-degree weather, and the next day it's blowing and snowing so hard, like a freak's cell will go through, and you're caught with your pants down. And so you got to be ready to not only mentally, you got to get mentally ready and have a good mental attitude. But there's a lot of things, like you and I can help the guys out with little things that you can put into your truck that a lot of guys don't even think of. And number one, of course, everybody thinks of tire chains and cross links. You got to have some extra cross links just in case. And one of the things when we were talking about this, you brought up, and when I was talking, I said, I bet a lot of the guys don't think of airline antifreeze. And you had a good solution, because you asked me, how do you put it in there? And I said, well, you hold the hose like this and you pour, and you probably spill more than you get in your airline, and you can't get too much in there, otherwise the brakes will stay on. But you had a really good idea. What was that?
That was, you go to, I was also someone shared this with me. I can't remember if it was my friend Dale or not. It might have been him. That you go to a dollar store and you get the small little to-go a condiment packet, 2 little bottles. They have like a little coned top of it, right? And they're just small, and you can buy them at the dollar stores, and you just top them up. And the nice thing is you just loosen the lid off a bit, and it'll fit right into the Glen handhole. Yeah. Because when you try to pour that stuff in, as you know, it goes all over the place. Sometimes you have to take, the rubber right off. And then, but that, you just top it up, and then you stick it in and you squeeze it. They probably won't last very long, maybe through a month or two after using them, because they're going to be cheap. But if you go to the dollar store and grab them, they're like the little condiment, little to-go little
like
kits.
a little mustard or ketchup bottle that you use,
And they have a little cone top to it, like, kind of like, the French's mustard or whatever. It has that end. You can even use something like that.
And just a side note, guys, like I said, you don't put too much of that stuff in your airline, because your airlines were, I think they call it hydraulic. They'll hydraulic on you, where you can put the brakes on, but you can't get them back off again. So you got to be careful. I've never had that happen. I just heard guys that know way more than me say that. But like I went up north one time. I think I was around Burns Lake or somewhere way up there. And
was that in BC?
In BC, British Columbia, north, way up north. Anyways. And I was having trouble with my brakes, and I was pulled over, and the guy said, "Did you have any brake line antifreeze?" And I said, "Is there such a thing?" So he gave me a gallon jug, which I thought was very nice of him, and he said, just put that in and, pump your trailer, your spike 3 or 4 times, like full application, and it should clear any of the ice that's in there. And of course, a good thing to do, I know there's a lot of air dryers on the trucks now, but it's still a good idea when you're going to sleep up overnight, just open the tap on your wet tank just to get all that stuff out of there. And that's a good habit to get into, whether it's wintertime or not.
Yeah, and don't set your brakes.
Yes.
Don't
yes.
hit your brakes. Okay, so why don't we first of all start out with what is a good idea to, as a visual, what do we need to do to make sure that truck is ready to go out on the road in case we run in, for the winter weather, like
tires for one.
Okay.
If you're going out there with summer tires or tires that are ready to be replaced, you can be guaranteed you're going to be chaining up on every little hill and nook and cranny because they won't be able to get the traction. But that's a biggie. Electrical is another huge one. If you've got wires hanging down, what's going to happen. The snow's going to pile, and airlines too. Make sure everything's tied up the way it should be, and not hanging. How many times have you seen airlines hanging down in a trailer? And of course, when you go through snow, the snow piles up on them, and they end up pulling the lines off.
And they're supposed to be 14 inches off the ground, right?
Well, yeah, but I always like to have them up so they're not going to attract the snow. If they do, they're not in that hang down position. You should try and have them up as much as you can, like vertical.
That's kind of hard to do when you're in the U.S. because you're always sliding those axles back and forth. So I mean, you can have them up to an extent, and then you have to go to California, and then they're all hanging down. So I mean, I guess before you go into the winter weather, you might have to zap strap them back up again,
or bungee cord. That's what I used to use.
Yeah, that's true.
As long as the bungee cord's new, and then it doesn't matter, you can just do it according to where your axles are. And that always worked really good.
What about batteries? Checking to make sure your batteries are in good condition.
Batteries, alternator, belts. I mean, over and above, just your regular maintenance. I mean, yourself, if you go to start your truck in the summertime, and it's dragging a little bit, that something's not right, and sooner or later it's going to give you trouble. So you always make sure your batteries are in real good shape. I don't know if are they still sealed batteries that are on the trucks, or they still have the little caps?
You can still pop them open and look.
Yeah, and so just check and make sure that they're the water level or acid level is up in them.
They're not swelled up.
Yeah, and antifreeze for your rad.
Well, we'll get into the jockey box in a minute, but I was thinking on the outside of it. I think another important one, too, is to make sure you've taken off your summer blades and put on the winter ones, because if you're going to use... I don't know how well those winter ones work. I mean, they work better than the summer ones, the ones with the little boot on there. They're apparently... Snow and ice is not supposed to stick to them. Well, that obviously isn't true. And I have bought other wiper blades that are supposed to be... Ice is not supposed to stick to them at all, the Bosch ones. Well, that didn't work out either. They fell off mine.
Yeah, I always wondered why they didn't bring heated wiper blades out.
Yeah.
I mean, it can't be that big of a deal.
Well, they have them available online, but you just got to buy them and hook them up. And I think one of our drivers has heated blades. I don't know how well it's worked, but definitely change those blades, man, because that's going to make a big difference.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about those little deflectors that you nowadays you can get on your truck? You just put them on the door. I just had 2 of them installed on mine. So when you're using your blades and you've got your wipers going, and it's knocking the snow and everything off, it's not ending up all over your windows and your mirrors, because now it's creating all these blind spots. What did you do back in the day, or did you just put up with that?
Yeah, we didn't have the deflectors because you weren't cool. So
okay.
You weren't cool if you had.
So what did you do? Like when you had ice?
Well, you try and stop your wipers so that it stops in this position, and then you just reach out and just tap them, bang them on your. But I've done that and had the wiper fly right off.
I've broken one off doing that too.
Yeah.
But on ours, you can't just do that, right? When you're driving. So I would reach my arm out, and as the blade made it over, I'd reach over and snap it against the windshield, and that's when I had the Bosch ones on, and it snapped right off. I'm like, oh, this isn't good. I'm in a snowstorm, and I just lost my blade. So, all right, so let's talk about what we need to have in our jockey box. What do you think?
Warm gloves, weatherproof gloves, a good, I would say, I want to say snowsuit, but a good
coveralls
suit, coveralls that are insulated coveralls, because sometimes you're out there playing around with your
rain gear, I guess, right?
Yeah, rain gear. Mind you, rain gear is slippery. You could slide down the hill if you fell.
True.
I was being funny, Ray.
But it's true.
It is true. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I've had drivers go by me and they spray slush at you because they're
Yeah.
too close to you, and you end up getting soaking wet. So if you got something like that, at least you're protected.
Yeah.
And so good gloves and good outerwear, whatever that might be.
And make sure
And,
make sure it's reflective so you can be seen.
Yes, yes. And reflectors, that's another good thing, like not the flares, but the reflectors, put them out behind you, especially if you're the only guy on the hill that's spun out.
Yeah. And it's not a bad idea to have something that lights up too. I mean, I know you can get them now, and you can actually get those triangles. You can buy triangles, and they LEDs are amazing nowadays. I mean, they just because a lot of the time you don't see those reflectors.
I was going to say one thing. When you're getting into really bad weather, I get a kick out of these guys that hang their chains on the tail end of their truck where the lights are. Have you ever seen chain hangers there?
Yeah.
Try and get to them when your truck is sliding backwards down the hill.
Yeah, true.
You know, like I always say to guys, you know, if your chains are on the rail of your truck where they're easy accessible, make sure that even if you have a single hanging on there, that you can get off really fast and throw under your wheels, because that will stop your truck from sliding down the hill. And so that's what I used to do. I used to keep my triples on the inside and my singles on the outside, and just for that very reason, because it happened to me a couple of times, and if I hadn't had that, I probably would have lost the truck. But, you know, I was just putting my boots and my gloves on, and I happened to look up, and there's my tracks up ahead of me. I was going backwards, and I didn't even know it.
What about the auto socks? Have you ever had any experience with those?
No, I thought they were kind of a joke.
Well, actually, they work. They're very effective.
Oh.
Because you're an old school trucker. Yeah. But those socks, the auto socks, they are very effective. They stick to the ice quite well.
What about when your wheel spins? Or will they come apart?
No. Well, when you put them all on, it's almost like walking outside on ice in your bare socks. You're not going to slip. They were, like I said, if you spin your tires, yeah, you're probably going to ruin them. I mean, you got to use them differently, right? Yeah. But they are very effective when it comes to getting up an icy road. But yeah, I have 6 of them in my truck in case I ever need them.
Nice. Okay. Another thing. Find out how to put your tire chains on. That's you need to do that in the summer and the. Yeah. You know, we should almost have a segment on that where we should go outside and show the guys how
maybe before winter we'll do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
Because, boy, most of the times you're under pretty stressful circumstances, and you got to get those things on and get out of everybody's way, or, like I say, keep from going down the hill backwards. But I would say that if you're sitting in a truck stop, and I know it looks funny that you're putting these chains on, and I used to just say, you know what, we don't use them very much where I come from because it's always 70 degrees, but I'm just doing it to practice, right? And I'll give you a hand, or I'll show you how I do it, or it usually goes pretty good.
Yeah, make sure all the links are in good conditions. Make sure, you know, if you're getting into a truck, you just got hired on and there's a set of chains in there, don't trust the driver that was in there before. Go make sure those chains are in good condition, because not only is it going to leave you hooped when you need to use them, you go buy a scale, they want to check your chains and they see that some are broken. I know a couple of drivers or at least one driver in Oregon that got nailed $450 fine because the links were broken on the chains, and they're like, well, I just got the truck. So it does happen. And make sure those chains are in really, really good condition. And like Glen said, make sure you know how to put those things on. If you don't, I mean, you could be like you could be a 5 or 6 year seasoned driver, and you're just like, I've never really had to put chains on. You may not know how to put them on. Just ask. Don't be ashamed of that.
Yeah. I remember when you first started trucking in the U.S. and you were overweight or something. I can't remember, but you're at a California scale, and you didn't know either the weights or whatever. And I said, go to a driver in the truck stop, make sure he's got California plates on his truck, because he knows all the rules and regulations, and ask him. And I don't know anybody that wouldn't give the advice to a new driver, unless, you know, the driver's being ridiculous. But But they always help me. I always say, well, I don't get the 41 feet. What does that mean? And of course, they would tell me, you don't go into California without that thing set at 41 feet. And so I always, when I loaded my truck, I always loaded it with the axles ahead to the 41 foot mark.
Yeah.
So if anything had to be adjusted, you didn't have to wait till you hit the scale. But
Yeah. So what else? What else can we have in our jockey box that's going to help us? Extra. How about extra wiper blades for one?
extra wiper blades, of course,
they break.
fan blades. You can always use blades. Don't usually that often break, but every once in a while, you've probably already got them in there. That and hoses in your, from running all year long.
Yeah, anti-gel stuff we have.
Anti-gel is very important.
Yeah.
To show you how effective that stuff is, if you buy the really good stuff, I bought stuff that was in a little tin about this big. And I had this is an old mechanical Cat engine that I had, and I had the hand throttle pulled right out, and it was barely moving. So I went into the gas station, and I said, "Are you got any fuel line antifreeze?" He said, "Yep, here's one." And I said, "Well, I want to get out to the truck before it quits running." So he said, "Only pour half in each tank." So unfortunately, I went over to the passenger side and I poured half in there, and I didn't even have the lid on, and that engine started to scream. That's how fast that stuff worked. I couldn't believe it. So when you're in 30 below weather and that, the gas line and airline antifreeze is really important.
So what actually happens, for those that don't know, to the fuel when it starts to get cold? Why is it considered, does it gels up?
Yeah, it gets just, and it gels up, it gets just like Jell-O. I've seen it in tanks where it's unbelievable. I wouldn't have believed if I seen it. That was an extreme circumstance, but yeah.
It clogs up the lines.
Oh, it'll clog it right up, and along with the ice doesn't help either. But
so the anti-gel thins it out, it dilutes it, and gets you going again. A lot of the stuff that I have in my box, I have the 911, 911 stuff. It's very good.
Yeah. Yeah, in this situation where your tanks are already gelled, I don't think it would do any good at all. You probably have to get it at a shop and get it heated up. But
if you're going to be going into a very cold climate, put it in before.
Yeah.
And then again,
there's a lot of condensation in your fuel tanks, and not to mention sometimes you're sucking up water at a fuel place.
Yeah.
So somebody told me, if you see them dumping fuel, don't fuel up. Wait till the trucks go. Wait till the next day, because they disturb all the moisture in the tank.
Yeah, that's a really good point. There's a lot of companies, or should I say, a lot of truck stops on the northern parts of the USA and of course in Canada that already have treated fuel. However, if you go down into California and you've got a load, say, of produce, and you're heading to Calgary with it, well, that's not a very good analogy. Well, I guess it could, because once you get into Montana and parts of Nevada, it can get very, very cold. Even if you're fueling up, you're not going to have treated fuel in California. They're not going to treat that fuel. Put your 911 or whatever you're using in there at that time. Also put it in your reefer too, because your reefer needs it. So that's good to have in the jockey box. What else can you think of?
I'm thinking of food rations. Lots of times you'll need. Yeah, lots of times I've been out of food because I think, I'll eat in a restaurant and I'll shop later. But just something that keeps and doesn't, it'll keep you going at least for a little while. Yeah. Good rubber. I don't know, Ray.
I would say good rubber boots. You might want to have a scraper for your windows. I always just say have a little extra of everything, even though you make sure you have the right washer fluid, the stuff that won't freeze. Like, get rid of your summer washer fluid. It's not going to be any good to you.
No.
And just top up on all your fluids. Make sure you have extra hoses just in case something bursts or something goes. But and
I was going to mention before, make sure you got the proper amount of antifreeze in your rad, because that'll freeze up too.
Yeah.
You know, it's so it's always an idea before you go. Just get your mechanic or the guys in the shop to check it for. Most of the time they do it during services, anyways. But I mean, you could have blown an airline between services and just had to put regular water in it. But that sort of thing.
Yeah, well, just try to think of the scenario. What happens if I break down, and why would I break down? And like Glenn said, make sure you have the proper stuff that's going to get your lines going, your brakes in case they seize up. So just and
the reason I said to have an insulated suit or coveralls is because if your truck does quit running, you got to stay warm.
Oh.
And so a good hat, a toque. Here in Canada, we like toques, eh? And warm gloves, warm boots, like the fur-lined boots, because lots of time helps. You know, it might be only an hour or two away, but boy, oh boy, when a truck shuts off, it gets instantly cold.
Well, I'll quickly share with you a story. I was running with iHaul, and I was coming from the Lethbridge area, and I was making my way. I picked up this load in the U.S., and I was making my way into Calgary. I don't know what the temperature was. It had to be minus 45. It was so cold. It was insane. And I previously had an issue with my rad hose when I was down in Phoenix. It got fixed, and when I got into Calgary, it went again. Just before you're on the Queen Elizabeth Highway, just before Stony Trail, it goes again. And I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. And I can absolutely back up what Glenn just said. I didn't have like real heavy duty winter gear because we're so used to driving down. We just came from, winter had just started, and this was one of those storms that hit Calgary, and winter was just starting. I really thought I was going to freeze to death in that vehicle because my heater bunk wouldn't work. I couldn't. Coincidentally, my heater did not work, my bunk, but because the hose went, I couldn't start the truck. I couldn't get any kind of heat. I really thought I was going to freeze to death. That was so cold. And I remember on one of my videos, I showed that. I'm like, this is insane. And when the guy showed up to repair my hose, I asked him to sit in his vehicle because I was so cold. I was shaking. And make sure you have, like you said, like you were saying there, maybe have a little duffel bag or some little bag that you have inside of you and stuff it somewhere in your truck or on top of your bunk or in your jockey box where it's an emergency gear that you can wear just in case it really gets cold. You can get those little pockets that you can put, I don't know what they're called, call them hot pockets. You put them in your gloves.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
And you can get those at any of the surplus stores. And
I was always thinking that, I don't know if you ever remember them. There were little, there were tent heaters, and they were about this big, and about this round, and you used the kerosene in them. Right. And
that's not a bad idea.
You got to have a lot of ventilation, of course, because it's and those things throw off an awful lot of heat, and they don't take up any room to store them. Yeah. And that might be an idea too. I don't know if I ever used one or not in the years that I was trucking, but.
I have like a grill. It's like a hot plate grill that I can boil water on, and it just has a little kerosene thing, whatever, and you put it on there, and it's like a little burner. I've never ever used it, but I know if I ever run into that situation again, I've got some heat for a while. So
we froze up. My partner and I, we were running double at the time for Reimer, and we were in northern Ontario. And at 65 below, we froze up. Wow. And I want to tell you what, 65 below was a real experience. Luckily, we had a car that was following us, and he saw we were in trouble. We had a wide spot that we pulled over. And we said, we froze up. And he said, well, we were only, I don't know, maybe 10 or 15 miles out of one of the major towns that has a truck shop there. And he said, I'll take you down there. He says, jump in. And so we had to have the truck towed in, but by the time everything thawed out, because they put it in the shop overnight, I'll bet you it took 2 days for that stupid truck to thaw out. It was incredible. Wow. So the cold is, I mean, you can say what you want about hot weather, but it takes a special bunch of experience to truck in the cold weather.
One other thing I wanted to mention too, and that is, even if you have not had issues, with your bunk heater, before winter hits, it's never a bad idea to ask your mechanic at your trucking company to do some maintenance on that thing. And it's just really the only maintenance, these things conk out all the time, and it always says requires maintenance. It's basically the fuel line, which is so thin, it's thinner than a straw, and it just needs to be cleaned out. They flush it out and it's good to go. Maybe get some maintenance done on your bunk heater, again, your batteries, just things that are going to sustain you. If your vehicle has a APU unit, or whether it's electrical or if it's diesel, again, just ask to have maintenance done on that so you're ready to go. Most companies will be happy to do it.
Yeah, those units are easily overlooked when they're doing everything.
Sure they are.
Nobody really thinks about them until they need them.
Yeah, so be prepared out there, and we'll probably be doing a few more shows regarding winter once it starts. And Glen is back from his cruise.
Yes, I wore I was going to put a cruise ship in the background, but Ray said I couldn't.
Yeah, so you're looking forward to that one?
Yes, I am. It's
you'll be thinking about me while you're up against the buffet and eating your food, overlooking the beautiful water. Yeah,
actually, I won't, Ray.
No.
I'll be thinking about anything but what's going on out here.
Well,
but anyway, no, I will think of you. I'm just bugging you.
That is so nice. I hope to see a 10 because you look like a ghost.
I look a little anemic, don't I?
A little bit.
Gonna have to tell my wife to start feeding me more.
Yeah. Well, friends, excuse me. If there's anything winter related that you would like Trucker Glen to address, or any other subject, send your emails to truckerglen10@gmail.com. Truckerglen with the number 10@gmail.com. He will reply to you, and we'll get it on a future episode of Trucker's Corner. Trucker Glen, thank you again. And anything you wanted to finalize with?
I was going to say, when we do the video on putting chains on, I'll hold the camera and I'll be the commentary.
Oh, sure. Okay, sounds good. Yeah, we can do that. Yeah, we'll do that soon. We will.
Yes, we will.
Yeah, before we really, really need it. I mean, we still got a couple more months before it really kicks in. So, absolutely, we will do that. And I think that'd be
just be prepared
idea.
for the surprises, guys, because this is the time of year where you're going to get surprised, because a lot of times there's no rhyme or reason why it's sunny one day and a blizzard the next. So.
I would say, if you have an opportunity, prepare your truck now. If you have it, don't procrastinate. Don't leave it till later. Right. And I think this is our cue, because I'm losing my voice here.
Right.
All right, everyone. Okay. Thank you very much for viewing Trucker Glen. A pleasure as usual, and as always. And I hope you enjoy your cruise.
Yes, I will. Thank you.
All right.
Good luck out there, guys.
Blessings in the name of Yeshua, everybody. Until next time. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.